Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Govs on the Go Alumni Edition, a podcast featuring alumni from the College of Arts and Letters here at Austin Peay State University. My name is Dr. Buzz Hoon. I'm the Dean of the College. I'm also the host of the podcast. And today, my guest is Jim Thweatt, who graduated with a degree in history and in English back in 1991. Jim, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Hoon, for having me. I'm very pleased to be here.
Well, let's give everybody a life update. Tell everybody where you are and what you're currently doing.
I am an archivist in the History of Medicine collection which is part of the special collections at Vanderbilt University in Nashville. So it's the History of Medicine collection, special collections, Vanderbilt University Library. Kind of a long title there, but that's where I'm at. And so that's we're physically in a different building where the libraries at Vanderbilt are spread across several buildings, and so we're in the Eskin Biomedical Library, which is the medical library, and so we're part of the History of Medicine collection.
Okay, well, we're going to get into what your job is, what it's been like for the last few years in just a little bit. We're going to start at the beginning, talk a little bit about, you mentioned that your family moved to Clarksville, and you were born here, born and raised in Clarksville. So what kind of things did you like to do when you were growing up?
I enjoy both my father and mother really enjoyed gardening, and so I enjoyed gardening along with them. I had a couple of neighbors who were also avid gardeners, so I kind of picked that up. I love that. Both my parents were interested in history and genealogy. My mother was interested in did artwork, and my father was a historian, but he was also an archivist, and so that was a good background for me to do what I do now. But also, I did play baseball. I enjoyed playing baseball and doing sports and athletics. So I was kind of in Boy Scouts. I did Boy Scouts, and and I was a member of the First Baptist Church in Clarksville. So a lot of activities I kept active as growing up.
So I want to rewind a little bit. Yeah, it's unusual to have a young person interested in gardening. Tell us about your neighbors and what their reaction was when you were interested in gardening.
Oh, well, I had two neighbors, as I mentioned. One fellow was by the name of Kermit Phillips, and he was retired, and he lived right across the street from where I lived. And he had a vegetable garden, and he was a very meticulous gardener. He gardened every day through the spring and summer. He kept his rows very neat and orderly, and just had his tomatoes tied up, and did a really was just and he loved mulching with leaves. He'd go around the neighborhood, the older neighbors who couldn't rake their leaves, he would rake their leaves for them, and he would put them in his car. He'd grind them up. He rigged up where a lawnmower and a big barrel, and he would grind up the leaves, and he'd put them in his garden. And I saw that as youth growing up. I said, that's a pretty good idea. He, building up the organic material in the garden, and I thought that was real interesting. The other neighbor, uh, I think he had a job until he worked, and his gardening style was a little bit more. How would you say it? A little more laid back, a little more natural. He'd go in the springtime and he would plant it once, and that was it. And so I saw
So was that
that.
Johnny Halliburton? Is that who you said it
That's
was?
right. That's Johnny Halbert. That's right.
Okay. He's a
Exactly who
great
that
guy.
was. And well, it was. I believe that it was his father, John Halberton, Senior. I'm pretty sure. I always remember him as Mr. Halberton, but I'm pretty sure that his name was John Halberton as well. And so yeah, uh, he liked. He had a larger piece of property, and so. He'd go and bush hog it and trim trees and stuff like that. And, it's a beautiful natural area. And, he had cattle and horses there, and it was just, they were both good stewards of the land. And I really liked and enjoyed and appreciated, their, taking care of the land. And I was impressed by that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And you mentioned your parents, and you also told me that they were huge influences on your development. You already mentioned that your dad was archivist, and your mom was interested in genealogy, or maybe that both of them were, and so I think it's interesting to look back now that we get older and we see how they have shaped us, and what other things do you remember that you look back and say, I can see how they helped guide me.
As I was saying, my mother, of course, my father, was a great influence. The history, love of sports and organizing things. I mean, that was my father. My mother, more artistically inclined, and so that was her angle. And I've picked up a little bit of that because I certainly appreciate things having things be right and look right, and that she was really big on layout and design of what flowers would go well and look nice in the garden, and so I've certainly have picked that up from my mother, and and my mother, and she encouraged it, and from her parents, and her father in particular, stressed the importance of having a broad interest, a broad uh, depth of knowledge, is and you know knowing how to fix things, and doing just having a broad knowledge and everything. So I was that was very important for to get from my mother and her family.
And so you went through the school system here in Clarksville, and I think you mentioned, at least wrote down several names of teachers that had impacted you. Can you remember a few for us, just to summarize what it was like to go
Um,
through the school system?
I went to my first school was St. Bethlehem, and the principal there was Evelyn Bale, and she was kind of a larger than life figure. As a small child, she was really tall, but I don't. I'm sure she wasn't that tall. But the thing I remember about her was is that uh, when the school buses came in and then when they left, she was there always there to see the kids come in and leave, she was a disciplinarian, but fair, as in, she was strict but fair. And the kids that I knew, I mean, everybody, the children appreciated her presence. And she cared for all the kids that went through the school there. And so she was, a big influence. Um, uh, Perhaps fourth grade was Eunice Martin. I remember her as Mrs. Martin, but her name was Eunice. And her big thing was is that she loved to read to the students in class, and that made a huge impact on me, in that it really piqued my interest in reading. And two of the books that I remember that she read for Clarksville and Montgomery Robertson County region, she read the M.V. Ingram Story of the Bell Witch. And that's
Oh,
kind of a big thing that she read that. But then the other one that was perhaps more important was that she read the first book in the series, the Laura Ingalls Wilder, the farmer boy, and she read that book to the class. And I was so interested by that book. I told my mom, I said, I've got to read all those books. I want to read all those books. So my mom, from the summer of the fourth grade to the fifth grade, I read all those books. And now I was a little bit behind in schooling and reading and comprehension, what have you. But through that summer of reading all those books, that was like really, you know, really jump started my career, my academic career. I felt like I was behind,
yeah.
and all of a sudden I was not behind him, which was a good thing. So the next teacher was Joni Bath, fifth grade, and she was just a very creative teacher, very caring, but just very creative on the units that she had to teach. And she was really big on having visitors come to speak to the class and what have you. And I just felt that that was just a very important thing to have that to have a variety of things to pique students' interest, and she definitely had my interest. And so another teacher, uh, ninth grade in high school, I went to middle school was I went to Richview, and then in high school I was at Northeast, and my ninth grade English teacher, her name was Kitty Savage, and she was a very unconventional teacher, but the one thing I remember her doing was is that she would have students get up and diagram sentences on the chalkboard. And then she also liked to have students. She would have a stack of tabloids that she subscribed to, and she would have the students read through the tabloids and find errors in the magazine. And it was just kind of real. It was kind of my first glimpse at not everything that's published both is accurate or truthful, or there could be errors. Everything, that was really kind of your first glimpse at there may, if they're not writing correctly, then the information that they're trying to convey may not be correct either. So that was real good, both in an English perspective, but then also just kind of a good life perspective and seeing that everything that's not published is not necessarily accurate or true. So I thought that was important. My other favorite teacher, and all the teachers I've had all through my Montgomery County schooling experience, and also I will say most of the teachers I had were Austin Peay graduates, and I commend them for the
Yes.
work that they did. But Johnny Head, who was an agriculture teacher there at Northeast, was a good teacher, and kind of the reason I took agriculture was kind of following the what both my particularly my mom. You need to have a good broad experience. So, when some of the students said, "Oh, take agriculture class," and at first I said, I don't know, is that gonna, you know, be good college background? And then I thought about it. I said, no. I'm taking the agriculture class. I think that'd be good. That'll broaden my knowledge and experience, which would be good. And so I took it, and I'm glad I did because Johnny hit uh, number one, a very, very nice, fine man. But then also, he had a way, he was just really good and personable with his students. And then he could really, uh, had a way of, teaching how technology at that time, and we're talking 1986, 1985, mind you, could be applied to traditional, agricultural practices that, that a lot of the students would know and be familiar with. He had a way of doing that. And then also the favorite thing I liked about it was, the shop class that we had that was associated with that and going and building things and using the welder. And, that was just a good practical experience to have that. So I enjoyed those classes for my uh, preparatory education.
Great. So, how did you when did you decide you're going to go to Austin P, and when did you make the decision that you were going to study history and English? How were those simultaneous decisions? Did you?
Well, I think kind of a big part of it is the fact that I knew I had through my dad, I knew I loved history, and my dad, and he taught at the history department and knew that the history department had a good reputation, so he suggested. I wasn't exactly sure what I was wanting to do, but I kind of had an inkling that I had an interest in kind of following what my dad did. So I went to Austin Peay because of both the English department. The English department had a good reputation, and the history department certainly did. So those were the two main reasons that I went. It was a little, I will tell you, I definitely was a bit apprehensive about going to college, and so but I thought, if I'm going to college, Austin Peay is going to be where I'm going to go. I have my it was very close to where I live, and it was very convenient, so it was the very logical choice for me to go to Austin Peay.
And you said one of your early memories, you're connected with Joy Filippo.
Joey Filippo. He did we did the orientation together, and I recommend to any student who's thinking about going to Austin Peay, sign up for the orientation. It's very important to do that, particularly if you, I would, they use the term non-traditional or a student who doesn't go live on campus, and the orientation that it was specifically designed for students who were going to be local and not necessarily going to be living on campus, and so that was a very, very good experience, and I befriended Joey, and once I got to know him, I said, yeah, this is going to work out. I know that this is the right choice, and I'm looking forward to the fall and starting school, and and I did enjoy it. It was a very good experience.
And you mentioned that one of your favorite places to spend time was the library.
The library, yes, that's right. I spent a lot of time in the library, uh, and Joey's mother worked in the library, Inga Filippo, and Eleanor McMahon. They manned the reference desk, and so I spent a lot of time in the library, and I was I was literally a fixture in the library. One of the things I didn't like to do was I didn't like spending money on making copies on reserve items that were put on reserve for students to read. And so I would just check it out, and then I would read the materials. And so when the student would come up to the reserve desk and find out that it was checked out, it was, oh, I know where it is. They would come and they would come and they would come and get me and check out their and I'd let them have whatever I had, and they could make a copy and get it back to me. So, yeah.
Well, there's no shame in that. I think that's great. You were also involved with the movement to save Harnett Hall. So how did that come about?
Well, I was when I was a student there. Uh, uh, Dr. Gildery, Richard Gildery, and Howard Wynn. The Hornet Hall was slated to be torn down, and they were leading the effort to not have it be to save it, and so um, they wanted to get some background on who Perry Lee Hornet was, and his wife Myra McKay. I think the building was named after both of them. And so they asked me to, can you, one of my papers I was taking, one of Dr. Wynn's class, Howard Wynn's class, and he said, can you do a paper on Bradley Harnett and his career? And I said, sure, I'll be happy to do that. So that gave me a good reason to go down to the state library and archives with my father. I think it was spring break week as I went down and spent the week at the state library and went through the Department of Education records from that period and just really enjoyed going through that and seeing his fall in his career with the state. So I did a paper and ultimately, Hornet Hall, the word came down that it was not going to be torn down. It wasn't going to be a parking lot, and it's a good thing. Hornet Hall, I can remember the building. It was closed up my first few years, or my entire career. But when time at Austin Peay. But I've since been there, and it was just great to see that it was got restored and is being used. One of the original buildings on the Austin Peay campus. So it's very good that it was saved.
And I'm speaking from Harnett Hall. So thank you, Jim.
Right.
Your work in making sure that I had a place to come to. Um, I'm going to throw out a couple other things from your time here, and then you can fill in the gaps for me. You mentioned about the semester in the Oxford program in 1989.
Yeah, 1989. That was uh, Tom Dixon, Dr. Tom Dixon. Uh, asked me. He was said, "Hey, Jim, I'm going to be doing this special semester in Oxford, and was wondered if you'd be interested in going." And said, "Yeah, sure." Dr. Dixon, Tom Dixon, and his wife Jo were just very fine people. His son, Blaine, uh, very nice fella, and so I felt very comfortable in going. I was a little apprehensive, had never traveled much, and so that was a great opportunity to do that, to go to Oxford, and the main thing was just to be there, to go and to be in England, and so every weekend, and Dr. Dixon really, and Joe, his wife, really worked on you know arranging excursions and things for the students. It was a consortium with University of Kentucky and Northern Kentucky University, but they were instrumental in making arrangements to go and having weekend excursions and seeing things, and that was just a very, very rewarding experience to be there. Got to see France, went into France. William Parker was a fellow student, and we went to France, and it was a very fun experience. Went to Verdun and Paris, and it's just a very good, enjoyable experience. One of my favorite memories of Austin Peay.
Yeah, open up the world to you like it does for so
Absolutely,
many other students.
absolutely, it sure did.
So, one other thing that I want to hit upon, you mentioned two glimpses of your future in Clement.
Yeah, well, kind of glimpses of the future, kind of a little funny side story. Uh, uh, and The first one is that I majored in English, so we had a writing assignment. It was we were to write a paper, a story or something in class. We were to write it and turn it in. And so we had a student, and he came in with a like it was like a suitcase he came in with, and he uh, proceeded to remove a very early version of a laptop and started typing and it was a word processor.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't very powerful back in those days, but he had a word processor, and so he was clicking away and typing, and it was a little bit of a distraction, doing that. And it's like, why is he typing this? And so then he proceeded. He had in his suitcase type of thing a printer, and so he plugged that in, and then he proceeded to print his paper that he had written. And so, I mean, it was just so, I mean, very commonplace nowadays. But back in the 1980, it was probably about 88, 87, 88, somewhere in that range. To see someone doing that was
Yeah.
just really interesting, and that definitely was a glimpse into the future. The second one is that I was walking down the hallway, and in Clement, and I think it was probably in history, one of the junior faculty members. There was a student talking with one of the professors, and she said, "I tried to call you, but you didn't answer your phone, your office phone." And then he proceeded to say, "Well, I don't use that phone. I have a cell phone." And he pulled out his cell phone. He said, "I don't." He said, "I don't even have one at home." And the student was
Oh,
just incredulous that he, said that. And it's like, yeah, you just would call me on this, and I'm right here. He said it was on my numbers on the syllabus, and so it was just kind of an interesting conversation that
were
was
there
taken.
those big phones?
It wasn't quite one of those big phones, but
Yeah.
it was a singular monolith
Huh.
of a piece of equipment though. But yes, that was kind of a glimpse into the future uh, in
That's
Clinton.
funny that you remember those two incidences. That's great. Well, you must have done some things right because you were named, I think, the history student of the year for before you graduated, and then you were off into your career. And I think you mentioned in one of your first jobs was at the what is now the Customs House Museum here in
Yeah.
Clarksville.
Yeah.
And so, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I believe that it was Dr. Howard Wynn, let me know about that job and said, "Hey, there's an opening at the Montgomery County Museum. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure, I'll be interested in that class or having a job." It was a part-time job. And so the main thing I was doing, I was a curatorial assistant, and that entailed organizing and describing the artifacts and putting little numbers on the artifacts, doing a little bit of cleaning. And so that was a very good experience, and um, Robert Patterson was the director, Jill Hosmer, who I worked with, and then what is his name? Charles Ontiveros he was the fella that oversaw maintenance and collections and building things and that kind of I saw you know there was a variety of people and variety of interests and activities and that really kind of went back to uh, you know you know you wouldn't be doing the exact same thing every day.
Hmm.
There was going to be a variety, and I saw that as being, yeah, this is something I would really enjoy doing. There'd be a variety of things, and I love, I've got it from my grandfather's fixing things and what have you. So I saw that as, I saw that and what they did and putting exhibits together that piqued my and I loved doing the research and on things and stuff like that, but then also the physical preparing things for exhibits and what have you. That was interesting. So I saw that as just uh, you know a good experience and made the decision that I could definitely do that as a career, that would be a very fulfilling career to work in a museum or a library type setting. There'd be a variety of things to do. So that working at the Clarksville Montgomery County Museum, now the Customs House Museum, that was a very good experience for me.
So that got your career started, and when you moved to Vanderbilt, tell us a little bit about your job and what you do now as an archivist for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, so I and this kind of goes back to my uh, 1990, 1991, I believe. I attended a archivist conference. My father, encouraged me to go. He knew that I was interested in doing that, so he said, "Well, you go to an archivist conference," and I talked with Mary Tilo, who was the head of the special collections here in the medical library. And uh, she remembered me from, she didn't have a opening or a position, but she remembered me from speaking with me at the archivist conference. So when a position did come open, she called me up or through my dad, asked if I'd be interested in applying. So I did, and so. Um, Largely what I do now is what I've done for, many years. I make a kind of broad overview is that I make the special collection, the history of medicine collection here at Vanderbilt, accessible to patrons. And that entails reference, people asking questions about the collection. I answer reference inquiries. I prepare exhibits. I prepare finding aids, as in how to locate the materials. We have manuscript papers, personal papers of researchers and doctors who've been here at Vanderbilt, and also researchers or scientists. We have special collections. Nutrition is one of our strong collections, and so we have papers and nutritionists from all over the United States. And so um, I've worked on preparing finding aids for those things. And then also we have an artifact collection of medical instruments and you know lots of photographs and framed materials. And so I work on both, making, conserving those and making those items, available for researchers. And then also I've um, gone through multiple iterations of finding aids. When I first started working, it was a printed finding aid, as in they were notebooks with page after page of
Oh
descriptions
my gosh.
uh, of uh, of the materials that we have. So if we had someone, who was interested in, a particular collection, there might be, there'd be a catalog listing of the collection. If they were interested, we could make a copy of that finding aid and send it to them through the mail. Uh, and of course, as the years have gone by and things have, become available through the internet, then, our finding aids have become more and more elaborate. And but I will say through the years, um, the various online databases that we've had, there's been how would you say it, breakdowns of you enter in a lot of data, and then it's the next morning you come in and, okay, where did that go?
Oh,
I don't know. It didn't save, and so it was always a measure of uh, uh, trepidation on, okay, I'm entering this data, and I'd always have like a little backup plan, as in I would enter in the data on kind of the way that I was doing it when I first started. I'd had to have it in a Word document or just a text file, and then I knew I had it. It wasn't going to get lost
mm-hmm.
and lost in some database. But the databases that they have now they're very dependable and very you can work with them, and I have very great confidence that they are good, and they're really good, and you can put a whole lot of cataloging it. And so it's real easy to find something. There are so many things that we have, and if you use the right keywords, you can find something instantaneously. So I have great confidence in the system, and it's available via the internet. All of our collections that we have. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of, and this is the medical um, collection, the special collections, which I'm a part of too, the larger special collections of the university. Uh, many collections, and so it's a really excellent resource of information and resources that are here.
Well, I think, like you, I grew up with that little bit of healthy distrust of anything digital for a while,
Yeah.
um, because of the same reasons. One of the things I wanted to touch on before we ended our conversation is you remain active in the community here in Clarksville with both genealogy and also the Sons of the American Revolution. Can you talk about why you decided to get involved in those organizations and
Yeah.
why it's important to
Well,
you?
yeah. So the job, and this kind of ties in with my father. My father worked at the state library and archives, and one of the things that he did was to go around to the various counties, um, throughout the state, and have them convince. He'd go to various county commission meetings and what have you, and convince them of the importance of having them write their records microfilmed and everything. And so uh, you know he he'd always had an interest in genealogy, but he never. My father, he died in 1998, and in retirement, he was really looking forward to. And he joined the Sons of the American Revolution because he saw it as a kind of the user end of utilizing the records that he'd worked with. As in, he saw that as the Sons of the American Revolution and a lot of lineage and organizations, that was a great way for those records to be used. And so that's why he joined. And then I joined when I was at Austin Peay, and I've kind of um, see that I kind of associated with my job, and then I really love helping people. Uh, find out about their past or their
Mm,
family's past. And those records are the key to that. And so, helping people do the genealogical research is, something and I love doing it. And I love, and it ties in with my job here at Vanderbilt. I love helping people. I love people, helping people do their research, pursuing their interests. And I love helping people do their genealogical research and access the records that are now available through the internet. It's just a really fulfilling thing. So yeah, I have, and that's been my big connection with the faculty at Austin Peay. George Peasley, Dr. George Peasley, and Dewey Browder, former chair, David Rands, are members of the SAR, and so we've also had faculty from Austin Peay and and from the other departments come and speak to our group. Dr. Gildray, Dick Gildray, and Dr. Manila Effelman and Dr. Tanner, Kevin Tanner have come to our meetings to give talks. So that's been my main connection with Austin Peay, and always, and my time at Austin Peay. I remember when I was a student, Um, and that carries forward to today, that the faculty have always been so more than willing to, help our, community, do community activities, be involved with the community. And that's always impressed me, that they've done that. So I try to do the same. I do the best that I can.
Well, I
Uh,
thank you for doing that. And I can tell you that what I hear is that you are a real star with that organization. So they they have said given you high recommendations. And so one of the last things we have, Jim, is always recommendations that you might have for our students. What kind of recommendations do you have?
Um, well, if anything, it's just to, uh, follow your passion. What do you really love to do? And what just feel it comes natural. What you know, you, what do you love to do, and you just feel like you could do it for the rest of your life, and you wouldn't necessarily even have to be paid to do it. I mean, if you do something like that, you will never, and you will never retire. And it's just something that you love to
Yeah.
do. Uh, Along the more practical lines, though, is try to engage in some activities that are relative to those interests. And and this is what I try to do, and what people encourage me to do is volunteer or work in those fields, and see if it's something that you really like and want to do. Also, uh, don't be afraid to you know change majors, is or make the decision. Oh, this just isn't what I want to do. I don't feel like, well, I've declared my major and I just had to follow it through. But if it's not something that you really like to do, I mean, it's not the right path. Follow
Yes.
what your mind is telling you about that. If you don't like doing it, then you're not going to be able to sustain that. I also recommend developing hobbies and interests that complement what you like to do. That because uh, it really is very helpful. And genealogy has kind of done that for me. Is that's been kind of a side thing that's sort of complemented what I do here at work. Um, and another thing, and I just think it's terribly important, particularly as you get older, to establish some good habits of, healthy habits, with plenty of exercise, and, you know, maintaining your health is just terribly important. So I just think that's um, very important to do. When I was at Austin Peay, I took a physical education class, and you know, I think that was kind of an important thing to have that in mind, um, to stay healthy, because you know, once you get, if you don't establish good habits, uh, you know, they're going to catch up with you. So if you establish good habits, then that's going to sustain you.
I agree. Good recommendations. Last thing I actually have, Jim, is do you still garden?
I still garden. I do garden. My mother, she has dementia, and I'm there and I take care of my mom. So I don't garden as much as I do. So I sort of follow the Mr. Halliburton method there. Kind of things have to take care of themselves a little bit, and they do. And I do garden, and that's a big part of my staying healthy. Is I love getting out and working in the garden. Is also it's a good break. It's a good place to go out and be with nature, see and smell the roses. I have roses, a few roses, and so it's nice to just literally you hear the expression, step back and smell the roses, and I do, and it really is a good diversion. So yeah, I do continue to garden not as much as I like to, and I also have, and anybody who lives in Clarksville knows, with the growth that we've had, a lot of deer, a lot of
Hmm.
turkeys, and they are can be really hard on anybody who gardens, but I do that in despite the best remedy on that is that you plant more stuff if you have a problem with deer. I've daffodils, lots of daffodils. They don't bother daffodils too much. So yeah, I do garden.
Well, good recommendations even on gardening. We appreciate you being on the podcast today, Jim.
Thank you, Dr. Hoon, for having me. Appreciate it.
And thanks to all of our viewers and listeners out there for joining us. We hope that you will continue to check us out as we profile some of the outstanding alumni we have here in the College of Arts and Letters at Austin Peay State University. So until next time, stay safe, take care, and God bless.